Unit 2.5. Elasticities of demand. Part 1. Price elasticity of demand is the percentage change in quantity demanded in response to a proportionate change in price of a good or service. If P, E, D is equals to 0, then demand is perfectly inelastic. In such a case, demand does not change at all when the price changes. The demand curve will be vertical. If P, E, D is equals to infinity, then demand is perfectly elastic. In such a case, the price of the good does not change at all output levels. The demand curve will be horizontal. If the PD value is between 0 and 1 such that the percentage change in quantity demanded is smaller than the percentage change in price, then demand is price inelastic. If the PD value is greater than 1 such that the percentage change in quantity demanded is greater than the percentage change in price, then demand is price elastic. Number of substitutes available. When a good has many available substitutes which can be used to serve the same function, then the good would be price elastic in demand. Degree of necessity. When a good is a necessity, then the good may be price inelastic in demand as it is needed to fulfill the production of something, or it may be habit forming. The cost of the good as a percentage of one's income. The cost of the good, if very low as a percentage of the income of the consumer, then the good would be price inelastic in demand. When the good is very cheap, as in the diagram, the cost is 95 cents. People normally would not bother to change to a cheaper substitute as the rise in price is very small. Only 5 cents increase. Time period. A good may be price inelastic at first, but over time it may become more price elastic as people get used to its high price, or over time people make new inventions and discoveries. People are willing or able to accept other substitutes or do without the good altogether. Crude oil is such an example. In the 1970s, oil price spiked and a global energy crisis ensued. Over the decades, other energy alternatives evolved like solar, hydro, wind. Cars produced became more fuel efficient and reliance on crude oil waned. Relationship between PED and total revenue. The total revenue that a producer earns by selling a quantity of goods to a consumer can be calculated with the formula below. Total revenue is equals to price multiplied by quantity demanded of the good. 1. If the good is priced as $50p, then the total revenue is $50p multiplied to 100 equals $5,000p. The consumer expenditure is $5,000p also. 2. If the good is priced as $60p, then the total revenue is $60p multiply with 50 equals $3,000p. The consumer expenditure is $3,000p also. The good is price elastic. 1. If the good is priced as $60p, then the total revenue is 60p times 50 equal to $3,000p. The consumer expenditure is $3,000p also. 2. If price is reduced to $50p, then the total revenue is $50p times 100 equal to $5,000p. The consumer expenditure is $5,000p also. 3. It can be seen that the total revenues after the decrease in price is more than the initial revenues. $5,000 minus $3,000p equal to $2,000p, giving rise to net positive revenues. 4. For a good that is price elastic in demand, the firm should decrease the price of its product to gain net revenues. The good is price inelastic. 1. If the good is priced as 60p, then the total revenue is 60p multiplied by 50 equals 3,000p. The consumer expenditure is 3,000p also. 2. If price is reduced to 50p, then the total revenue is 50p multiplied by 55 equals 2750p. The consumer expenditure is 2750p also. 3. It can be seen that the total revenues after the decrease in price is less than the initial revenues. 2750p less 3000p equals negative 250p dollars. For a good that is price inelastic in demand, the firm should not decrease the price of its product but instead increase price to gain net revenues. Relationship between PED and total revenue. Economic theory suggests that the PED of a straight line changes as the price of the good decreases. The PED of the good becomes more inelastic as the price of the good decreases as seen in the diagram. The good is price elastic, PED is greater than 1, on the upper portion of the demand curve and inelastic if PED greater than 0 but lesser than 1, at the lower portion of the demand curve. There are two ways to explain this. 1. Revenue gain versus revenue lost. Assuming that price of the good is decreased on the upper portion of the demand curve, the total revenue gained will be greater than the total revenue lost, making the upper portion of the demand curve price elastic in demand. However, if the price of the good were reduced on the lower portion of the demand curve, the total revenue gained is less than the total revenue lost, making this portion of the demand curve price inelastic in demand. 2. Price of the good as a percentage of income. At the root of this explanation is the idea that the PED of a good is more inelastic the lower the price of the good as a percentage of one's income. Similarly, we can see from this diagram that as price decreases, the good becomes increasingly cheaper. It becomes increasingly difficult to find less cheaper substitutes as the price of this good falls. This makes the cheap goods indispensable and thus more inelastic. Please click subscribe to our video if you find the content useful. All the best with your assignments.